Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. Y'all, this is the first episode of season 2, the first episode of the new year. I started a year ago recording this podcast while I was holed up in that week of in between Christmas and New Year's, and I released it on January 28th of 2022. I didn't have much of a plan, and I especially still don't have any marketing or social media plan. I am learning, and my main plan isn't a plan. It's just like a mission to tell tales about my journey, past and current, like the journey that I'm currently experiencing, to hopefully make all of us feel less alone in our own journeys, health or otherwise. And I do firmly believe that humor can heal. I think humbleness can heal. I think hope can heal. And I think finding a wholeness, even, feeling the feels, finding a wholeness, even when we feel broken, can heal, and dealing with the fact that, you don't have to be whole or be a certain way to just be, and that's what I hope to continue for season 2. And I hope to have more guests on in the coming episodes. Right now, it's a very difficult time for my family, and I will plow through as much as possible. My lofty dreams for Who's Dat Fat Girl may have to wait for now, but I will at least try to keep the episodes coming every Monday, or at least 3 times a month. I will do my best, y'all. My dad, Hoover Bob, is currently in the hospital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because of a horrible wound that basically put his body into septic shock. It was a wound that was unattended to, and it caused necrotic fasciitis, or basically skin that's dying on itself. And he's had 3 surgeries in less than a week. He has at least another one and maybe 2 more after that. He has been in the hospital for Christmas, for his birthday, and he rang in the new year in a hospital bed, ripping out his IVs. So it's been a hot mess. My dad has type 2 diabetes that he actually developed in his mid-40s while he was having brain surgery for a life-threatening aneurysm. So he survived the aneurysm, but he developed a really obviously bad chronic illness. Diabetes is manageable, but there are things that come with it, and they come with it when you don't stay on top of them. My dad has fought for his life so many times. We joke that he's like a cat who has 9 lives, and oftentimes it feels inappropriate to joke about that, and oftentimes it feels like it's the only thing we can do. So it is also my mission to help people take control of what they can, of what we can for our bodies on this earth, and try to be more preventative and not be so anal retentive that we lose our minds. That's what I'm working on myself. And it just all happens with baby steps, one step at a time. So I will get to the point of today's episode. In picking the theme for today's episode, I was actually inspired by, God bless him, my dad, dealing with a lot of nurses. We've had some wonderful nurses in the ICU at the hospital. The nurses on the floor, I will not say too much. I just have to keep crossing fingers and praying But needless to say, I have been inspired in a weird way, as only it can be, by the medical team. So I joke on this here podcast that I'm not a doctor and I haven't even played one on TV yet. I'm also not a nurse and I haven't really played one on TV yet. The key word here being really. Are y'all ready to dive into a tale with me about a sexy nurse costume? Are y'all ready to dive into 2023 with me? Are y'all ready to dive into season 2 of the Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast with me? Well, here we go. So I remember submitting to doing background work on a well-known gritty comedy series that shot, it was about 6 years ago on location in New York. And notice how I'm avoiding saying the name of the show. It's not neither here nor there, as my friend Brian would say. If you really know your New York shows, you'll probably be able to figure out as we go through this podcast episode. Anyway, the role was that I was submitting to was that of a plus size sexy nurse type. And I was like, okay, cool. I fit this bill. I can make this work. So I submit and then I get a call from casting and they're asking me my sizes, which is pretty standard. So they have to pass that over to wardrobe in case, they do end up really wanting to use me and not someone else who submitted. And they ask if I'm okay with like the material. And I'm like, the material, like the fabric? And they're like, no, the material of like, I'm like, yeah, well, okay, so sexy plus size nurse. Are you making fun of fat people? Do you have a line you can read where they reference this sexy nurse character? And let's pause, y'all, because already this was a major step for me. Personally and like, I guess career-wise, if you will, to not blindly just say yes, yes, yes to casting or to a gig or to money, not blindly operating from a place of like FOMOG, fear of missing out on gig. So casting did say, so one of the lead characters says something about wanting a Melissa McCarthy type nurse to massage him. I'm like, okay, massage him where? And casting is like, the 3 leads are on a massage tables, like in their dressing room, and they're talking about their dream writers. When their band gets super successful, they're just dreaming, and they're like talking about wanting to be like big divas with like crazy writers. And the main guy, he says he wants a Lana Del Rey type. The main girl wants like a Johnny Depp pirate type. And the guy you're going to be paired with wants like a Melissa McCarthy nurse type. And I'm like, okay, cool. As long as there's no making fun of fat people, and casting's like, oh, no way. But one more thing. And I'm like, yeah, casting. Well, you're fine wearing a sexy nurse costume, right? Me. Sure. Do we know what that entails exactly? Casting. Not until you get to wardrobe. You'll have to talk with them about what you're comfortable with. Me. Okay. Casting. Oh, one more thing. The sexy nurse outfit is actually a sexy Nazi nurse. Are you okay with that? Me. Um, uh, and I'm thinking, y'all, and I'm knowing that at this point, it sounds like I might get an upgrade, right? Like there's this possibility that saying yes to this might mean that I will get some lines or I'll get to improv with the lead characters of this show, which means like street cred and IMDb cred, and I'll use it for my reel. And not to mention the pay for the day just went up 10 times, no joke. If there is an upgrade possible, which, I mean, isn't guaranteed. But y'all, oh my God, that FOMOG, fear of missing out on the gig, is real, y'all. I'm not proud of myself, okay? I don't know why I was so hell-bent on them not saying anything bad about fat people, but I agreed to this. I say, okay, yeah. So I'm officially booked and I have a wardrobe fitting the next day. And I get to the wardrobe fitting the next day and a very nice lady has the costume laid out for me and I tried on. It's like that kind of drab, blue gray soldier color. And yeah, it has a swastika on it. I feel like weight putting that on, and I'm not happy about this. I mean, at all. I feel weird. And here's the deal. I do know at times as an actor, right? You'll have to play characters that you don't like or that you wouldn't be, that you aren't as a person, right? But I know as storytellers, and oftentimes, if I'm a blondish hair, blue-eyed girl, I might get certain roles that were not always historically kind characters, right? As a storyteller, I have to figure out where this sits in my heart and where this sits in the grand scheme of the world. And I know from what castings told me that it's kind of like they're just throwing away these ridiculous, like over the top lines, that whole acting comedy thing of like one-upmanship, one-upping each other. What next? What next? What next? And it's comedy. And I'm like, Brooke, okay, fine. Just suck it up. Just suck it up. It's not like you are being verbally abusive. All right. So I get into the costume and it's like a weird fit, like it's supposed to be sexy, but it's like a couple of sizes too big on me. And I don't mind the roominess, but the wardrobe lady says they're going to want to take it in a little bit and they're going to want to hem it, and that they'll figure out shoes to put me in on the day. And they love saying that, on the day, instead of on the day of the shoot, because no one in this industry has time to say 3 extra syllables, clearly. So I tell the wardrobe lady, while trying to be as diplomatic as I can, so as not to lose the role, gosh, that fear mentality, y'all, that I say, I'd really like to know exactly what the costume is going to be like. And she's like, oh, not much different than what's already happening. Maybe like a touch, a little sexier, and like, good old Brooke was a few years ago at this time that this was happening. In order to be easygoing, I say, okay, sure. Just like Audrey, from Little Shop of Horrors. Me, I'd say sure. Y'all remember that, and people might not always think that about me with my brazen and bold personality, but a lot of times in this industry, because we're told we have to, and because oftentimes we have to or we won't pay the bills or put food on the table, certain things you do have to be like, sure. So, but bear with me, y'all. Bear with me. We're not always going to say sure forever. Okay. So I piece out of the wardrobe fitting, but right away I call up our actors union, asking them about this situation. Now, here's the deal. In our union contracts, and especially at the time, there's a different pay rate for like people wearing clothes, doing background work, and people who were nude doing background work. There's different pay grade, that's in the contract, clear as day. There can be different pay rate for non-nudity, but otherwise different stages of reveal, like such as scantily clad, but it's not like there's anything set in our contracts. Sometimes it's already at a higher rate, like previously discussed. Okay. But see, I see a can of worms fixing to open because we don't yet know what my costume is going to look like. And I really can't tell how scantily clad this Nazi nurse costume is going to be. And so I tell the union the whole situation, that I'm in a sexy nurse costume and that I don't know what the costume will look like till the day of the shoot, but that I need their help getting in touch with production in advance, like right now, like Friday afternoon, 3:15 p.m. right now, to negotiate some sort of higher rate for this sexier, shorter, tighter, boobs pushed out outfit that I'm going to be wearing. And our union tells me that they can't see the costume. So if they can't see the costume, there's nothing much they can do. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm saying. I cannot see the costume either. So now we're like in the 11th hour, because everything's shut down on, Saturday, Sunday. And I mean, I'm not going to back out at this point, but I don't know what the costume is going to look like other than it's going to be sexier than when I went into the fitting, and we won't find out until maybe like 5 a.m. on Monday morning when we are called to set. And the union just basically leaves me hanging. They are of not much help. So call time is Monday morning at 5 a.m. like I expected, and I go into the wardrobe trailer to get into costume. And I find myself squeezing into an outfit that was easier to get into just a few days ago, and the dress comes up to my crotch now. My butt is hanging out. My boobs are like so pushed up, I can basically rest my chin on them. And the heels that they give me are way too high for this flat-footed girl. But the problem is, y'all, because I'm a team player. I guess I was trying to talk like Audrey from Little Shop. Because I'm a team freaking player. Now is not the time to bitch and moan. But y'all, this outfit is definitely tighter and more revealing than I agreed upon. Okay, this is above my pay grade unless I'm getting an upgrade, but I'm trying so hard not to sound like a diva. Or wardrobe asks me, "Oh, do you feel comfortable?" And all I can say is, "Nah, it's okay," as I'm like all squeezed up in there. And I shuffle out of the trailer in my faux Uggs with my 6-inch heels in hand. And I meet the other two kind of like fantasy background players, because we're all like, again, living in this rider fantasy for these wannabe superstars. And there's like a Lana Del Rey type and then the Johnny Depp pirate type. And both of those two friends are fully and comfortably clothed. I start seething. Our union reps are nowhere to be found because it's just 7 a.m. in the morning. We're called to set, and I go downstairs and I look over, and in an aquarium is a big, large yellow snake. The kind like that Britney Spears had in that video. I don't know like the technical name for this kind of snake. I just call it a banana snake. But did I ever mention to y'all on this here podcast that aside from fear of missing out on a gig or fear of missing out on sleep, my actual biggest fear is snakes. I am terrified, okay, of snakes. I get down to set, I'm terrified, and now I'm even more pissed off because there was no mention about a snake. There's been all these things thrown at me with no mention, or mention at like the very last moment. Here's the deal. I don't care if the banana snake is in their aquarium. I'm still scared less. I tell the assistant director that I will not be going to set if that snake leaves the aquarium, because this was never warned to me, and I didn't have some sort of hypnosis or therapy or anything before this. And I mean, I may or may not be good at putting my foot down about an unagreed upon level of sexiness in a costume, about portraying a Nazi nurse. But one thing I am good at is avoiding snakes, because that comes more like from like this primal fear to me of life or death. I wish I was as good about the other stuff that I just mentioned as I was about saying no to the snake leaving his or her or domain. So, I am assured that the banana snake will be staying in the aquarium on the day, meaning in this case, since we are already on the day of the shoot, it just means when we actually do shoot in a few minutes. Like, why are we saying on the day still? Like that, I'm assured that the snake does not have an action. And I dutifully do my scene with my other celebrity type peeps, and the banana snake is just chilling behind us and like a fourth wheel. And on our lunch break, our union rep shows up. Of course, this is classic. My pals who do background work will understand this. This is a classic. So I storm over to the union rep. I'm in like full Karen mode, and I'm wearing a warming robe that wardrobe had graciously given me to cover up when I wasn't shooting. And I'm like, "Hey, union rep, can we talk?" We step aside, and it looks like we're talking about some really serious business. And of course we are. And I say to the union rep, okay, here's the situation. And y'all just kind of like replay the whole situation that I just told y'all and then get to the point, yada, yada, fast forward. So my question is this: why is the guy dressed up as Johnny Depp, like pirate Johnny Depp, who isn't showing any skin, getting paid the same amount as this? And I open up my robe and I'm a guy in a trench coat on the side of the interstate flashing passerby. And you know what our union rep tells me? That I should have negotiated this with wardrobe and production in advance. Like, that's so simple. And I'm like, did you not just listen to me? Did you not just listen to that? I tried. I tried and I didn't know. I went into this not knowing. And I said, I even called you guys on Friday. I called the union, a union who is built to help protect actors from snakes and costume snafus. I mean, at least I think that's what they're supposed to do. And the union basically told me I didn't have a leg to stand on, even if it is a peg leg. Sorry, y'all. I needed to throw in some sort of callback or reference to the Johnny Depp pirate again. I don't know. I just felt like there might be some comfort in a little throwback or callback. So the union rep tells me that he, who was wearing khakis and a shirt, that he'll go back to production, but he doubts that they'll give me any more money to constitute scantily clad pay, but that he'll try. I look at him pleading, like, does this look like a normal outfit you'd wear out on the street, man? And he looks outside to the street of New York, looks back at me, and just doesn't respond. Okay, well played, because it is pretty normal for New York. I mean, I get it. I'm from South Louisiana. But our union rep comes back to me 5 minutes later, like, this isn't good, and tells me there's nothing that can be done at this point. And at this point, I also look like a Karen, or whatever the equivalent for Karen in German is. And sidebar, y'all, I was hoping that it would justify somehow if I would have gotten a line or two, an upgrade, right, as they call it. I'd even been practicing my German just in case. Dankeschön. All right, yeah. Let's not add German to one of Brooke's special skills just yet. And that's when I realize that maybe this is karma for me being so hard up to take a gig like this. And the point of the story is, y'all, we need to learn where our boundaries are and where and how to say no. All right? When your boundaries are continuously pushed, when is it time to just say no? Bye, girl, bye. When you're an actor, especially a background actor, you're at the very bottom of the totem pole unless you're like B celebrity status, okay? So I did have a choice, though. I could and should have just stood up for myself more. I tried, but I should have done more than trying. Like, the trying is exhausting. I should have just done something and not been so darn agreeable. And while I may not still be in the place career-wise where I could just turn down work or stand up for myself more, I am in a place, mental-wise, where I must turn down work and I must stand up for myself more, for my well-being and for my sanity, right? So let's go into our new year like being fat, pretty hot, and tempting people, y'all. That fatness is thinking of what we want proudly to say no to, what we want to proudly say no to from the get-go, how we want to proudly define our boundaries, especially when it comes to work. Because work, even if we love it, still can't deteriorate our minds or take over us. Because, y'all, as they say, when you say no to something, oftentimes you're saying yes to yourself. And I think in this case, I could say yes to a pair of comfortable scrubs. And there's actually some right over there in my closet, right down there. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks so much for sticking with me for season 1. Here's to season 2. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.